You guys, why don't the service providers come up in the front? It might be easier. That way you can all take the questions. Anyone from Turk Telecom wants to come up? Memesh, you want to come up? Or Jakub wants to come up?
Thank you.
Deutsche Telekom, and Telefonica. AT&T is already up here. Who did I miss? Dai, you want to come up and just see if there's any questions?
I think Rob's not here.
Rob is at the back. Rob is here. Perfect. Okay.
Oh, there he is, trying to hide.
Now you can pass the mic around and answer.
I think Tom said already everything. No, I mean, I concluded our speech from DT that we are serious about it, that we will really soon and not within the next 104 weeks see RFQs, and then we'll take it from there. Well, the solution needs to be hardened, it needs to be carrier grade, it needs to be integrated in our OSS system, and this will take some time, and give it a couple of months.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
Again, 3 years is 336 months, yeah? So, no, I can't say anything on that. Anyone with real numbers?
Hope for numbers, dream numbers.
How about other forms of questions out there? Yeah, all right, good.
So there are numbers for CEOs that we have in Spain, for instance, but it much depends on the window opportunities that we can take. Okay, for instance, in Spain we have already 800 CEOs with fiber deployed already with legacy infrastructure. Okay, whether these CEOs need new technology deployment like XGS-PON, and we can take the opportunity to transform the legacy infrastructure into a cloud solution. This is a matter of when XGS-PON is going to be ready and what is the commercial pressure to offer XGS-PON speeds to customers. Okay. In other countries where we have plans to deploy fiber, we might exploit some more greenfield approach in terms of new fiber deployment. But as for Spain, as I said, we have 800 central offices already with GPON infrastructure, and the plan is to connect additional 1,200 in smaller places. So a total of around 2,000 central offices just in Spain.
The one service provider who has maybe the number of subscribers equal to sum of all of them is Tang. Please come up here also. You can't be sitting there. 300 million is what you said? Guys, add up your numbers. All right. Any other questions?
So, a question here?
I'll let one of you hold it. Rob.
Oh, gosh, holding this. Never want this in your hands.
Hi, my name is Siddharth from Flex. I had a question around, like, are there any specification listed down about, okay, let's say there is one rack full of compute nodes having a cord deployed. So what number of subscribers could that support? Are those specifications listed down from service provider itself? Like on the hardware side, we see that OCP specs are listed. For the Volta, there are specs listed. But how about the actual full rack solution for a cord? Are there any specifications? Like what would be acceptable to a service provider?
So we're not cord folks right now. We have software components at Comcast that we're interested in here at ONF, and you probably heard our plan. It's an evolution of how we do our investment today in network to smaller and smaller node sizes and service group sizes, migrating to a different technology to do that, to scale it. So and we certainly have requirements about what that evolution looks like. Our vendors are very familiar with what we're trying to do. what those pockets look like, what those sizes of HA need to look like, what capacity planning we have in place to serve those service groups. All that stuff is pretty well understood within the folks we work with in our ecosystem. Not going to make breaking news here with those numbers, but we certainly have an idea of what the infrastructure needs to support for now, and what we're calling our, I can't use the word pod, I guess, but what we're calling our instantiations in our facilities to make sure what we do now supports the growth that we anticipate over the next 10 years facility infrastructure investments. Who else would take a crack at?
I know Telefonica shared some numbers, Alfonso did, about the number of subscribers you could support. I don't know if you're comfortable sharing that now.
David, do you know what Alfonso said?
I'm afraid he probably was quite optimistic. The question here is if this is the right way to measure it in this transformation, okay? Typically, we are used to get a box, whether it is a router, a VNG, whatever, and we say, okay, this box can support this number of customers. And we make a simple calculation. This is the cost per customer, okay? With the core architecture and the virtualization and SDN, the numbers are not so clear, because at the end of the day, it's going to depend what people are doing at a specific moment, right? Whether if all the people is watching a football match, for instance, quite popular in Spain, they will be consuming huge amount of video traffic. And you need probably to deploy some CDNs at the edge to leverage some savings in the transport cost of the network. So the numbers are not that fixed. You need to learn on the scenarios and characterize somehow how the infrastructure behaves in different scenarios.
I'm also not going to answer your question. But hopefully we'll give you some pointers anyway. At one end of the problem, there are a certain number of ports on one of these white box OLTs, and they're well-known splits in the PON architecture. So you understand how many of the white box OLTs you're going to need to scale out a deployment in access. The part that's fuzzy is also a value add, I think, that's part of Chord. The fuzzy part is what happens after you've actually pulled customers in through the hardware. And with Chord, there was originally this virtual service gateway concept, which was kind of like cloud bursting for consumers. They could have had hardware drives or network DVRs, or they could have run Minecraft servers on their LAN from the cloud. I've seen that done. And depending on how much of that, your scalability is going to change quite a lot. So that's also the good news. I mean, I realize that that's not a good answer and you don't know what the number is. But it's also one of the fundamental, value adds that you get from Chord. It's not just the standard kind of box function that we used to get by buying an OLT. We now have these abilities to generate various kinds of applications, both networking and otherwise, that can be brought to bear on the same infrastructure. So ultimately, there's a new revenue opportunity with new kinds of applications and services and what have you. And there's an ability to reuse the common infrastructure across all of these things without having to, bring in a new box every time a new service comes along. So the economics, even without having specific numbers, look really good from that perspective. Yes, as long as we're not answering.
Specialize in non-answers. So this went in a certain direction, so I think I'd chime in on that direction that it went. I mean, I'm sure all of us just live and breathe traffic trends all day, every day. We monitor, we have more data than we know what to do with on traffic, monthly, hourly, daily. I mean, it's just what we do because of network investment. story is all based on that, downstream, upstream. What are the trends? Is it tapering? Is it not tapering? And is it 8 years or is it 12 years? I mean, I think we all do that. And that's what our current assumptions around our infrastructure are built around, on certain assumptions around what that traffic growth looks like. And it's not just capacity, it's speed tiers and services, it's latency of new generations of services for IoT or whatever the case may be. All those things factor into what that platform needs to be, and that's what the current design reflects. And our partners know what that design looks like. They don't necessarily know every assumption we made to get there, but we all have those same assumptions around what do you expect for traffic, what do you expect for services, where the services are going to be in X amount of years, and what bets are you willing to place on what number of years. Do you really want to bet on something that's 12 years away, or is technology going to change so much that it's just not worth making that bet yet? So I think we all play that game all day, every day, and that defines the architecture. And to Tom's point, the flexibility that's built in to this evolutionary architecture is just so much more powerful than how we would have to manage that network under today's technology to do those same things.
So
That
in
also not answer your question?
Yeah, that answers to an extent. So in that case, what if some company is doing a lab trial with ONF support right now? So what are the points which any service provider would be looking at in the final report?
Stability, maturity. Again, invisibility to our end customers. If we run a trial with platforms here integrated with our existing infrastructure, it should run the same or better, integrate as smoothly or better, be able to be operated by our workforce. All the things that make all day, every day running a business have to operate at least the same and better under the new technology. Now, the nature of the fact that we're changing it so much is going to make it hard to measure efficiency right away, right? You got to learn things, and the folks who are going to run these systems might have a different set of rules and tools. But ultimately, all the things that run our business today have to run our business tomorrow, regardless of what technology is in the back office. We just hope to have tremendously more powerful efficiencies and capabilities when that technology is in force.
Okay. I've got a question for the gentleman from China, Unicom, right? You made a very, very interesting observation in your presentation where you said the current cost or price of a proprietary solution is cheaper than a white box with an open source solution on it. Would you mind expounding a little bit more on what are the contributing factors for why the cost of the open source solution is expensive? It's more expensive.
Yeah, today maybe the limited mass of the economy is important for the product price. So today we use some white box solutions because there is a limited supply. The price is relatively higher. For commercial products such as many commercial switches, there are a lot of supply. The price is very low. So I think we should work together to make the white box to be deployed widely and reduce the price. So I want to mention another thing. Today, a lot of operators mentioned to use virtual OLT to reduce the cost. But in China, we have already finished our fiber to the home construction. So today in China, the traditional PON solution, the price is already very low. So if the virtual OLT could not reduce the cost further, it's impossible to be used in our network. So I think it's a key issue for the open source and white box solutions to be deployed in our network.
Hi, yeah, Steve Hilton from Telstra. Yeah, it was great to see some concrete plans for ONOS and Trellis deployments. But I was wondering if anyone is also considering deployment of XOS at the orchestration layer, or staying with alternative solutions, and why?
Let me comment on this, maybe answering the question. At the moment, we're not exactly using XOS, but we're using the principle, and that's what counts at the moment. We're trying this out together with our operations guys. We're building this, and whether it's then an exact the code from XOS or an exact copy, but what counts is the principle, and that we apply in our network at the moment in our prototypes.
So, if you ask the question the other way, is anyone doing service chaining? The answer would be yes everywhere. Are you doing some level of orchestration off your edge? The answer would be yes everywhere. So XOS is being used, the concept is being used, is what I'm saying.
Question?
Daniel from Northwatch, Canada. My question is, the operator talk about forward plan and control plan. What about the monitoring aspect? For example, your OLT doesn't work well, some problem, customer not happy. You need to look into your OLT and see different statistics, a lot of statistics, right? So what your expectation on the monitoring aspect?
You want to answer?
That was the last question, by the way.
Okay.
You got it.
You have to answer.
That's right. It's easy. Yeah, we want plenty of those. Seriously, though, I think that at this point, most carriers are actually looking for more data out of their network elements, whether they're virtual or real, whether they're white box or not. And in fact, one of the things that we're really sort of eager about, and I think you heard my colleague Al Blackburn speak earlier in the day about execution environment inside boxes. We think that collecting analytic data, performance data, and so forth in the box, and then doing some sort of pre-processing before it gets streamed to the data lake makes a lot of sense. And so we're looking for this openness and these kinds of network architectures to support pulling more information about how the network's working so it can become smarter. It might even become machine learning control plane at some point in the future. I don't know when. My colleagues would probably kick me if they were here. But still, I think this is really important stuff. Thanks.
Found something I can agree with AT&T on. So, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, one of the advantages of this platform is, this kind of intelligence and this kind of deep IP connectivity lends itself to, moving away from legacy pull models to push models and database models and filtering on that data and using big data to try and really make the network more resilient, more robust, and ultimately just deliver better customer experience. Again, they never want to see us show up at the door, and we don't want to have to show up at the door. And if we can beat that to the punch by learning more about what's going on in the network and fixing it before it's ever noticed, that's a huge, huge win for us, not just on the OpEx side, but on the customer experience side, which translates to loyalty, which translates to churn and all those other things that we monitor very carefully. So it's a big value add to us to make sure all the tooling and telemetry is consistent with the evolution that we're seeing in data plane and control plane.
Thank you very much. Please, round of applause for all the speakers, especially the ones from our operators partners.